Can I introduce our guest now?
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, every hour we have different kinds of conversations, and in this particular hour we're going to be talking about the entry, and I'm putting this in quotes, the entry of Jubaland forces in Kenya. And to help me have this conversation, Siti Muga and Abdullahi Alas. He is a governance and policy analyst. Abdullahi, a very good morning to you and welcome back to Kenya. When did you come back, by the way?
Good morning, and I'm very sorry I'm late for the show.
Yes.
I came back on Saturday night.
Oh, you came back from Saturday night?
Yeah.
Abdullahi was in Norway.
He told us he was going to go to Norway.
Yes. You were visiting family?
Yes.
I hope wako salama?
Very good.
Good stuff.
Good.
I like you were sending me a lot of pictures and videos, and I actually enjoyed them.
Yeah.
A lot is happening in Norway, and I wish Kenya, would at least get to certain levels that I'm seeing. I know we can.
It's possible.
Kuna vitu zingine zinafanyika huko hata hapa tunaweza fanya leo. Si lazima tungojee tuanze kukua na snow ndio tuanze kukua na vitu tuanze kufikiria kama wazungu ama namna gani.
Coming back to Nairobi,
Yeah.
you look like a person who came back to a village.
Yeah. Do you feel like going back?
Well, family is here.
Yeah.
It's not about just how beautiful the place is or how good it is. It's
Yes.
about other things.
Uh-huh.
My parents are alive.
Yes.
Mom and dad.
Right.
My kids are here.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them.
Mm.
So, and this is home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Let's talk about Jubaland forces.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time a lot of Kenyans are probably hearing of anything called Jubaland forces or even Jubaland. People, just know Somalia as Somalia, but they don't know Somalia is big and Somalia has got many territories within. Yeah?
Yeah, Somalia has 18 regions, like what you call counties. And Jubaland has a very historical significance to Kenya. Talking about 1900. There's a time the British were thinking that it should be part of Kenya. But now the current Jubaland menace is due to so many other factors. It's not something that has started today. In 2020, 2021, the same guy who took Hawa now was in Kenya on Mandera side, invading Somalia from Kenya side. So we might call it as a strategic alliance with Somalia or Jubaland, but there is a lot of politics and commercial interests.
Yes.
The issues of charcoal, the issues of sugar, the issues of roots, securing roots.
Wait, roots?
Yeah.
Roots like Mizizi?
Like trade routes.
Oh, roots barabara.
Politically
speaking. Sorry, okay.
So the current menace is Somalia is one country, yes. Somalis are one country, one nation, yes. But we have subsections of the Somali community. So the current Marihan in Gedo region are not in good terms with the president, who is an Ogaden.
Okay.
So there are a lot of other internal factors. So I think Kenyan mistake is to try and believe that some of these things cannot mutate to bigger things.
All right.
One is you will not know who is a Jubaland or who is a Shabab if they so decide to dress like them. Somalis look like one another. I wrote an article back in 21 why we cannot repulse Al-Shabaab. I am happy that those in Garissa took up the article and implemented some of the things. And one of the things I was questioning was how do you respond to someone on a motorbike 200 kilometers using an armored car?
What do you mean? How do you respond to someone riding at 200 kilometers?
An incident happens in Asabito. Asabito is like 200 kilometers from Mandera.
Okay.
You see, and response time to incidents is very important, whether it's an emergency or an accident or a robbery or anything. So most of the Kenyan military or personnel have different backgrounds. There are those who come from farmland, and there are those who come from pastoral communities. The only people who can stay in Mandera are people from farm pastoral communities like Samburus, Pokots, Marakwets, Turkanas. You take someone from Kiambu to be a soldier in Mandera, I mean, you're just punishing him. Because he's not used to this kind of life.
Hardship.
But a Samburu guy is used to conflicts and wars and problems. So,
but isn't that where training comes in?
Well, you might train, but the resilience and endurance comes from life before training. So So I was telling the Kenyan government then, why do you want to respond to an incident when someone is on a motorbike with an armored vehicle? You don't know whether they will put an IED on your way. You don't know whether they will be set an ambush. There are a lot of things that play into these things.
So they follow a motorbike with a motorbike?
Currently, yes. And that's why what they did, we told them use the local people, the KPRs. We told them to get PIs, we told them to get CIs, confidential informant. There is a budget for security, and one of the reasons for budget is to secure intelligence, raw intelligence.
Yeah.
So I think the Kenyan government and we got more violence and death from Al-Shabaab since we went to Somalia than before Somalia.
Let me just introduce our other guest in studio. Byron Adera is a security expert. Byron, a very good morning to you and welcome to Radio Generation.
Morning. How are you?
Yeah, we're fine. Thank you for joining us today. You've just found Abdullahi talking about this whole issue of Jubaland, and he has mentioned a couple of areas, some of the situations which you've had. Right now, there's this issue of Jubaland forces in Kenya. First of all, is it true? City is very skeptical about that, by the way. Do we have Jubaland forces in the northern region of this country?
Well, thanks for that question, and I do partly agree with my good friend. Found him talking about issues here and there, and I partly agree with his assertions. But to address the skepticism of CT on this one, there are two truths here. The very first one is the fact that Nairobi sensationally denies the presence of Jubaland forces in Mandera. And the other truth is that the local leadership, so to speak, and the citizenry in Mandera do have a different feeling. And so that brings us to closely scrutinize those two divergent perspectives. And so from where I sit, the perception gap that this creates is a problem that needs to actually be addressed. An informational gap is something that is really as critical as it gets. In the border theater, information operations is actually an oppression in and of itself. And what Mahmoud has talked about right here, a number of scenarios that is highlighted that speak to small unit tactics, the purpose that is written, that he says is adopted in Garissa, partly true. And I'm happy that you weighed in with the aspect of training. Personally, having served in the Kenya Special Forces, I do know that, yes, I didn't come from farmland, but partly so.
Yeah.
In the shores of River Nyando, we became as resilient as possible. So it's partly right. Yes, you need to have that presence, and by presence I mean someone who has that is used to some of these theaters. But training sure is an enabler, and it creates that platform for people to actually lockstep.
Because I'd like to believe that KDF are adequately trained.
Absolutely, yes. And so that's the gap that's closed by training. I mean, if someone asked you to jump from your seat right now and to take on a parachute or something like that on your back, you wouldn't be able to. You can't even start to imagine that.
And that's a fact.
But training makes us so. All men are born equal, and women as well. But of course, people become specialized, so to speak, into different traits. Yes, it plays a big part, and that's part of what nature does to you. If you're born in so arid and semi-arid areas, like what is spoken to, yes, that differentiation is very, very, very critical and important. But you can actually professionalize just about anybody to become just as efficient a tool. And in this particular scenario, I'm talking about the war fighting tools that operators are like ourselves.
Yeah, and I think also the Al-Shabaab way of doing things is not what my colleague was trained for. These are not people who are trained to stay somewhere or use a conventional war that we're using parachutes, and that era is gone. I've listened to a guy called Scott Ritter, who is an American Marine, and who was a UN inspector, and he said the kind of war that is going on in Ukraine today is not the kind of war I was trained to do. Today we're using drones to drop and bombs and even surveillance, and using infrared and other things to even scan the area. So I think my thinking is that the way you grew up will come in when you get lost as a KDF officer in the middle of Mandera. What happens? You see, if you've never eaten fruits to survive, if you've never shot a dick, you have a gun, yes. You shoot something, the gun will be hurt. So how do you look for food without being compromised?
Okay.
You see, so generally, they're close to 4,000 Kenyan soldiers in Mandera, KDF, who are more disciplined than the police and these other guys.
Yes.
The special forces who are doing a great job, even though
Special forces are the equivalent of US SEALs.
The template is all the same. Yes, I do support your imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree entirely
This
with.
guy watches very many movies.
Yes, it does.
No, we
Every time
did.
he comments, he
Hata
refers,
nikitoka hapa
what
city.
movie is he referring to? But
they are not as disciplined as the military themselves.
Okay.
Who are those? Speaking of.
The special forces.
they are not.
Yes,
They
so
might
then
have the training,
I agree with him.
but the way they behave.
I agree with him. I mean, this is exactly what the special forces are trained for, and thanks to you for giving credit to the special forces.
Yeah.
And I still do have small disagreements here and there. Training is a great enabler, and yes, the perspective of where someone comes from is also a matter of concern. Training in the army is very holistic, and from tactics to all these things about survival or getting lost. I mean, this whole holistic training, just like what you become as an efficient journalist.
Yeah.
I know for certain that training is not open. It's not an open book for everyone to check through. But if you are to be given that catalog, you'd possibly sample things that are well beyond imagination. So the special forces are trained for this kind of small unit tactics, and I do agree with him in terms of what the Al-Shabaab do. It's called unconventional warfare, and you can't fight an conventional war conventionally.
Yeah.
So the special forces are rugged, not just in their dressing, but in the way we do things. It's not routine.
You know, there's actually people dispute the real color of the sun. People say
Why do they dispute it?
kuna watu wanasemanga it's yellow, kuna watu wanasema it's white, but the truth is the sun could actually be green.
My friend.
Acha niulize hapa, what color is the sun? What color is the sun? City. So the sun is actually white. That is according to AI. I mean, not AI, but Google. The sun is actually white, a blend of all colors in the visible spectrum. It appears yellow or orange from Earth because our atmosphere scatters the shorter blue and green wavelengths of sunlight, allowing more of the longer yellow, orange, and red wavelengths to reach our eyes. Astronauts in space above the atmosphere see the sun as white. Now you know.
Well, that will also be disputed, but for purpose of now,
Yeah.
if we call it white, it's okay.
Yeah.
Right, it is white then.
Yeah, but anyway, there's a lot of factors that come to play whenever we see celestial objects, whether it's the moon, whether it's the sun, whether it's the what's the name of this other thing, whether it's other planets. A lot comes into play. Like for example, Mars appears red. Why? There's a lot of reason why that appears. Actually, the Mars has got very little atmosphere. Yes.
It doesn't have atmosphere.
Mars.
Meaning what?
It was stripped away millions of years ago.
How do they know?
You'd need to talk to a proper scientist.
And I'm trying to say, when you make such, not you, when such statements are made by the so-called expert, stripped away, then it means they can tell you a time when it existed for it now to have been stripped away at a certain point in time.
True.
And are they saying that they're able to do this? That's really what I'm questioning. And if they say they're able to, then I would like, where is the evidence to support this ability that they claim to have?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I mean, at the end of the day, if some of these things, and I'm calling them interesting facts, if you actually get to Google, you will see a lot of information out there, and you'll start questioning. Just even whenever you look to the sky, not even questioning, you'll start overthinking or underthinking,
At what point do you think,
or being
and
intrigued.
at what point do you overthink?
For example, the people who just look into the sky and they see stars, they see the sun, they see the moon, and they don't even think beyond that. But now when you start getting some of this information where you're told, oh, the sun might be green, the sun might be yellow, the sun might be white, you'll never look at the sun the same way again. The moon, for example, yesterday, those people who saw the moon being red for the first time in their entire life, they'll start looking at the moon differently going forward.
In your estimate, that now is what you call overthinking.
No. I'm just saying that you will now start appreciating some of these things that you actually see in the night sky.
We will discuss this matter of overthinking later.
All right.
Yes.
Can I introduce our guest now?
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, every hour we have different kinds of conversations, and in this particular hour, we're going to be talking about the entry, and I'm putting this in quotes, the entry of Jubaland forces in Kenya. And to help me have this conversation, Siti Muga and Abdullahi Alas. He is a governance and policy analyst. Abdullahi, a very good morning to you and welcome back to Kenya. When did you come back, by the way?
Good morning, and I'm very sorry I'm late for the show.
Yes.
I came back on Saturday night.
Oh, you came back from Saturday night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Abdullahi was in Norway.
He told us he was going to go to Norway.
Yes, yes. You were visiting family?
Yes.
I hope wako salama.
Very good.
Good stuff.
Very
I like you were sending me a lot of pictures and videos, and I actually enjoyed them.
Yeah.
A lot is happening in Norway, and I wish Kenya, would at least get to certain levels that I'm seeing. I know we can.
It's possible.
Kuna vitu zingine zinafanyika huko hata hapa tunaweza fanya leo. Si lazima tungojee tuanze kukua na snow ndio tuanze kukua na vitu tuanze kufikiria kama wazungu ama namna gani.
Coming back to Nairobi,
Yeah.
you look like a person who came back to a village.
Yeah. Do you feel like going back?
Well, family is here.
Yeah.
It's not about just how beautiful the place is or how good it is. It's
Yes.
about other things.
Uh-huh.
My parents are alive.
Yes.
Mom and dad.
Right.
My kids are here.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them.
Mm.
So, and this is home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Let's talk about Jubaland forces.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time a lot of Kenyans are probably hearing of anything called Jubaland forces or even Jubaland. People, just know Somalia as Somalia, but they don't know Somalia is big and Somalia has got many territories within. Yeah?
Yeah, Somalia has 18 regions, like what you call counties. And Jubaland has a very historical significance to Kenya. Talking about 1900. There's a time the British were thinking that it should be part of Kenya. But now the current Jubaland menace is due to so many other factors. It's not something that has started today. In 2020, 2021, the same guy who took Mogadishu, but Hawa now, was in Kenya on Mandera side, invading Somalia from Kenyan side. So we might call it as a strategic alliance with Somalia or Jubaland, but there is a lot of politics and commercial interests.
Yes.
The issues of charcoal, the issues of sugar, the issues of roots, securing roots.
Wait, roots?
Yeah.
Roots like Mizizi?
Like trade routes.
Oh, roots barabara.
Politically
okay.
speaking.
Sorry, okay.
So the current menace is Somalia is one country, yes. Somalis are one country, one nation, yes. But we have subsections of the Somali community. So the current Marihan in Gedo region are not in good terms with the president, who is an Ogaden.
Okay.
So there are a lot of other internal factors. So I think Kenyan mistake is to try and believe that some of these things cannot mutate to bigger things.
All right.
One is you will not know who is a Jubaland or who is a Shabab if they so decide to dress like them. Somalis look like one another. I wrote an article back in 21 why we cannot repulse Al-Shabaab. I am happy that those in Garissa took up the article and implemented some of the things. And one of the things I was questioning was how do you respond to someone on a motorbike 200 kilometers using an armored car?
What do you mean? How do you respond to someone riding at 200 kilometers?
An incident happens in Asabito. Asabito is like 200 kilometers from Mandera.
Ah, okay.
You see, and response time to incidents is very important, whether it's an emergency or an accident or a robbery or anything. So most of the Kenyan military or personnel have different backgrounds. There are those who come from farmland, and there are those who come from pastoral communities. The only people who can stay in Mandera are people from farm pastoral communities like Samburus, Pokots, Marakwets, Turkanas. You take someone from Kiambu to be a soldier in Mandera, I mean, you're just punishing him. Because he's not used to this kind of life.
Hardship.
But a Samburu guy is used to conflicts and wars and problems. So,
but isn't that where training comes in?
Well, you might train, but the resilience and endurance comes from life before training. So I was telling the Kenyan government then, why do you want to respond to an incident when someone is on a motorbike with an armored vehicle? You don't know whether they will put an IED on your way. You don't know whether they will be set an ambush. There are a lot of things that play into these things.
So they follow a motorbike with a motorbike?
Currently, yes. And that's why what they did, we told them use the local people, the KPRs. We told them to get PIs, we told them to get CIs, confidential informant. There is a budget for security, and one of the reasons for budget is to secure intelligence, raw intelligence. So I think the Kenyan government and we got more violence and death from Al-Shabaab since we went to Somalia than before Somalia.
Let me just introduce our other guest in studio. Byron Adera is a security expert. Byron, a very good morning to you and welcome to Radio Generation.
Morning. How are you?
Yeah, we're fine. Thank you for joining us today. You've just found Abdullahi talking about this whole issue of Jubaland, and he has mentioned a couple of areas, some of the situations which you've had. Right now, there's this issue of Jubaland forces in Kenya. First of all, is it true? City is very skeptical about that, by the way. Do we have Jubaland forces in the northern region of this country?
Well, thanks for that question, and I do partly agree with my good friend. Found him talking about issues here and there, and I partly agree with his assertions. But to address the skepticism of CT on this one, there are two truths here. The very first one is the fact that Nairobi sensationally denies the presence of Jubaland forces in Mandera. And the other truth is that the local leadership, so to speak, and the citizenry in Mandera do have a different feeling. And so that brings us to closely scrutinize those two divergent perspectives. And so from where I sit, the perception gap that this creates is a problem that needs to actually be addressed. An informational gap is something that is really as critical as it gets. In the border theater, information operations is actually an oppression in and of itself. And what Mahmoud has talked about right here, a number of scenarios that is highlighted that speak to small unit tactics, the purpose that is written, that he says is adopted in Garissa, partly true. And I'm happy that you weighed in with the aspect of training. Personally, having served in the Kenya Special Forces, I do know that, yes, I didn't come from farmland, but partly so. In the shores of River Nyando, we became as resilient as possible. So it's partly right. Yes, you need to have that presence, and by presence I mean someone who has that is used to some of these theaters. But training sure is an enabler, and it creates that platform for people to actually lockstep.
Because I'd like to believe that KDF are adequately trained.
Absolutely, yes. And so that's the gap that's closed by training. I mean, if someone asked you to jump from your seat right now and to take on a parachute or something like that on your back, you wouldn't be able to. You can't even start to imagine that.
And that's a fact.
But training makes us so. All men are born equal, and women as well. But of course, people become specialized, so to speak, into different traits. Yes, it plays a big part, and that's part of what nature does to you. If you're born in so arid and semi-arid areas, like what is spoken to, yes, that differentiation is very, very, very critical and important. But you can actually professionalize just about anybody to become just as efficient a tool. And in this particular scenario, I'm talking about the war fighting tools that operators are like ourselves.
Yeah, and I think also the Al-Shabaab way of doing things is not what my colleague was trained for. These are not people who are trained to stay somewhere or use a conventional war that we're using parachutes, and that era is gone. I've listened to a guy called Scott Ritter, who is an American Marine, and who was a UN inspector, and he said the kind of war that is going on in Ukraine today is not the kind of war I was trained to do. Today we're using drones to drop and bombs and even surveillance, and using infrared and other things to even scan the area. So I think my thinking is that the way you grew up will come in when you get lost as a KDF officer in the middle of Mandera. What happens? You see, if you've never eaten fruits to survive, if you've never shot a dick, you have a gun, yes. You shoot something, the gun will be hurt. So how do you look for food without being compromised?
Okay.
You see, so generally, they're close to 4,000 Kenyan soldiers in Mandera, KDF, who are more disciplined than the police and these other guys.
Yes.
The special forces who are doing a great job, even though
Special forces are the equivalent of US SEALs.
The template is all the same. Yes, I do support your imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree entirely
This
with.
guy watches very many movies.
Yes, it does.
No, we
Every time
did.
he comments, he
Hata
refers,
nikitoka hapa
what
city.
movie is he referring to? But
they are not as disciplined as the military themselves.
Okay.
Who are those? Speaking of.
The special forces.
they are not.
Yes,
They
so
might
then
have the training,
I agree with him.
but the way they behave.
I agree with him. I mean, this is exactly what the special forces are trained for, and thanks to you for giving credit to the special forces. And I still do have small disagreements here and there. Training is a great enabler, and yes, the perspective of where someone comes from is also a matter of concern. Training in the army is very holistic, and from tactics to all these things about survival or getting lost. I mean, this whole holistic training, just like what you become as an efficient journalist.
Yeah.
I know for certain that training is not open. It's not an open book for everyone to check through. But if you are to be given that catalog, you'd possibly sample things that are well beyond imagination. So the special forces are trained for this kind of small unit tactics, and I do agree with him in terms of what the Al-Shabaab do. It's called unconventional warfare, and you can't fight an conventional war conventionally.
Yeah.
So the special forces are rugged, not just in their dressing, but in the way we do things. It's not routine things that you do.
I want to understand, when you say they're not disciplined as the others, what do you
They're corrupt. They take money.
Okay.
They take bribes.
And others
And
don't
that's a
take money.
very, you see, I've friends who are in the military. I've cousins in the military. I'm a friend to few of them in Mandera, especially the OCs when they come to Mandera. And my interest is always to look at the security perspective of Kenyan. I was in Busia in 1987 when Kenya and Uganda were fighting. You see, it's one thing to train. It's another thing to go to war. You've seen what happened in Al-Adde, how Kenyans were caught off guard.
Yeah.
If Kenyans were as trained as they were, there will have been people who will have picked that trail. I've worked in Al-Adde and those places. You see, war is not the gun. War is intelligence and tactics and how to fight information. The problem with Kenyan forces when they go to northern Kenya, I might be biased, but I'm speaking as a herder. First, they lose the training, meaning most of them become overweight.
Why?
They eat, they sleep, most of them. Because when I was growing up in Mandera, we used to hear the noise of the military in the morning. They used to train. You don't find that these days.
They don't train.
I haven't had them. Or even when you come.
But alas, you no longer live in Mandera every day.
No, I do. But I go to the military and you see the physique. Very few people. You see, I've never seen a military with a belly. These days you see them.
They have bellies.
Some of them.
Okay.
And and I'm not talking about what happens in the military training. I'm talking about what's happening in
Post-training
the
now.
ground.
Wakishafika kwa
Now,
ground.
the special forces are doing a great job. But I just traveled by bus before I went to Norway. Okay?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I can't afford a plane.
Yeah.
But sometimes, if you want to do analysis, some of these things you have to feel them. You have to smell them. You have to test the dust. And you'll see a special forces, some of them, not all of them. Mostly they close their.
They cover their faces.
They cover
Balaclava.
they can do their faces. And there is a car somewhere, and then the bus driver or the bus conductor will go talk to one guy, drop some money, and then.
You're talking about the military fellows you find on
The
route.
special forces on the route.
Okay, there's a reason I'm asking.
Yeah.
When you travel to that part of the world, there are places where you will find, should we say, a barrier that stops people from moving.
Even here,
and you are
past
inspected.
Mwingi here, just some places
Yes.
before Garissa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, as you move on, you find them. If you go towards Marsabit, you see.
Yeah.
Are those the people who qualify, or are they the ones we are referring to as special forces?
They're
I'm
the
saying
same
because
ones.
I don't special forces.
I'm not a trained military guy. I only see
Well, neither
the dress.
am I.
So they're wearing the same thing.
I know they are not police officers.
They are not.
That
They are
much
not.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the question I'm asking is, you are alleging that they take bribes.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's establish that there is this theory that they take bribes. Somebody could be greeting somebody they know. You are assuming they're taking bribes.
Yeah.
But let's say they're taking bribes.
Yeah.
How does this affect their performance, Alas?
You see, everybody can bribe you now. You become susceptible, including Al-Shabaab, who pay a lot of money.
They do.
Hey, boss. You see, when you're fighting people like Al-Shabaab,
Yeah.
first of all, Al-Shabaab is an ideology. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's a person who believes he's dying for a cause.
Yes.
Some Kenyan military are raising kids. They're not ready to die. Some. The girl is in university. The woman is pregnant. A house is incomplete. And why am I saying this? When you see some of the way they behave, some of them, and you talk to some of them, and this is something that is to do with the misgovernance of the country. It goes down to the presidency, to the ministers, to the country. People will tell you, why will I die for a country that everyone is stealing from?
Okay.
That my wife and daughters are not get. You saw what happened in June 25th. A police officer brother was killed.
Yeah.
He left the military police. So military are human beings. If they knew what happened in Al-Adde, I mean, there are people who are captive up to today.
Alas, I want to ask Byron something for the sake of clarity as we move forward. The individuals that he's talking about, the ones that we find at checkpoints, number one, are they military? And if they are military, are they special forces or are they other kinds of forces?
Well, as you can imagine, and I'm speaking from the perspective that is also lent to us, he doesn't have the full knowledge of what the composition of these people are. Neither does CT do. I'm really thankful to that. I'd want to praise the gallantry of the Special Operations Forces, and speaking generally. So the composition has really many outfits. We have the police and we have special units within the police. We have the Special Operations Group, that's part of the Administration Police. It's a specialized unit that is also really capacitated to fight in this kind of this kind of challenge, the unconventional warfare. And if you have seen their dress code, it's more of it resembles what you'll also have in the special forces. Now, the other bit that you'd want to be concerned with right about now is that the police are trained by the infrastructure and the security kind of provision that they do for the internal management of the security affairs of a nation. The army is postured more towards management of external aggression. That's a major definition right there. Talking and of course having that blanket statement that the army or the special forces and their special operations forces and their special forces, so ourselves, if you have quite some scrutiny as to what the KDF is made up of. So the special forces are the 40 special forces, that's ourselves, the Ranger, 30 Kenyan special forces, and then the 40 Ranger strike, then the parachute regiment and other units. These are really the biggest punch and tip of the spear. And a lot of operations that proudly I took part of are really, border and across the border, deep insertions into behind enemy lines and doing such kind of stuff. And I would praise the army any day, having left several years behind me that cases
How many
of corruption.
years were you there before you left?
Well, close to 8-9 years. Special Forces, 4 years solid, and I'm quite honored to have been a pioneer in the Kenya Special Forces. I would tell you that those are the strongest and fighting units you have on the land. That
are you allowed to talk about what you do?
Well, there's official secrecy act as well. As long as it doesn't compromise ongoing operations, then that's fine. Personal, attributes to what is done and what happens in the field, you can, in general.
You can talk generally about
Absolutely.
what you do.
Yes.
But
and
not
as long
specific.
Yes.
And so if I were to mention a specific incident that happened and ask you to clarify, you may not be able to comment on that.
Depends. On a case-by-case basis, yes. Yeah, so like I was saying, I'm really proud. I mean, the KDF stands tall, and even regionally and internationally, and that's why you have the favor that you see in terms of them being, in the forefront in terms of troop contributing countries, let's say even in Somalia, and Kenya really has stood tall with Somalia, generally specifically speaking about Jubaland, in the war against Al-Shabaab. I know there's the diplomatic challenges that you have, Mogadishu and Kismayo, because of Jubaland and other diplomatic situations you've handled over time, say maritime, say all these visit fiascos and all. But then, you say if you have a common enemy, and if you are you have a friend who fights your enemy, then ideally you have all
an
of
ally.
them, an ally on one end.
But the thing that I find puzzling
Yes.
in this discussion boils down to what really are we dealing with here, and I'm going to explain what I mean.
Mhm.
When we have these artificial borders,
Yes,
they tend to interfere with the communities.
that's right.
The communities that are represented by what we refer to as clans in Somalia
Yes,
are also in Kenya.
that's right.
Okay? Now, if we look at Northeastern Province and the issues that are clan related,
Mhm.
it tends to feature strongly amongst pastoral communities. If you go to Northern Kenya,
Yeah.
Kerio Valley, and all that, the same thing is replicated.
Yes.
So now, at what point are these conflicts matters of clan disagreement that have spilled over?
Mhm.
And at what time are they larger issues where you find there is a relationship between the government of one country and another, and the relationship of other people who may be as intermediaries? And lastly, at what point do we include individuals who may come from communities that are represented across the border and this way and yet are in positions of authority? Then now, in my mind, it gets really mixed up.
You see, first of all, before we become borders or before we become nations, we are individuals and we are societies.
Yes.
I had the latitude and the privilege of working in northern Kenya, across from Baringo in Marigat to Chemologo to Kagir to Kapedo to Lodwar, and then back to Samburu.
Mhm.
I said on other forums that a development question cannot be answered with a bullet. That time, Kindiki was the interior minister, the current deputy president. If you go to Kapedo, it's like Kapedo is in 1960. You see, there's nothing much. There's one school where the kids from Lomelo Primary School. So if it was a Somali issue, then we have Turkanas and majority are Christians. Pokots are the same. There is no good relationship between the Pokots and the Turkana. You go further north, there are guys called Todonyan. You find Nyangatoms and Dasanach. And every time I go to the field, as someone who is enthusiastic with governance, I go beyond my work. Go to people, look at their history, look at their feeling. Most Pokots don't feel Kenyan. And that's why you have now issues of cattle rustling, you have issues of banditry. This is a lifestyle for them. And it's a business. Most of the cows that end up at KMC find their way from those places. So it's a bigger question that the Kenyan government is addressing it wrongly. You see, the moment everything you want to do is superficial, the problem is not resolved. If you go to places like Suguta Valley and that kind of Baragoi, it's very mountainous. You go with choppers. What choppers will only look at the trees, because what they do is they dig the mountains
Into the hills.
into the hills.
Yes.
So the chopper will go here. It cannot come here because they will shoot it down. So what are you doing? You're just exposing soldiers for people who know the terrain better. So by the time you take a KDF from here, he's looking at the map, talking to people. That will take like 3 months. You see. So the problem of Al-Shabaab is, even we were perceived that we have a common enemy. Al-Shabaab are Somalis. Who is funding them? You've seen in the US Congress, Africa in the world is created into a circus of securitization because there are people doing business. I came through Brussels and Norway. You look at that infrastructure. It is an illusion created by people who are in business. Because if there is no war, where will you say the guns? Where will you say the drones? You've just seen what China paraded. Where will those things go to? So there is a far much complexity of securitization in the world than we are the circus we are creating. Al-Shabaab is funded by the US. They said it in the Congress. Who created, the Taliban? It was created back when the British was fighting the Russians. Then the Russians were fighting the Americans. The Americans were fighting the British. It's a circus. So if you look at global business, I happen to read, and I got interested in reading books by CIA directors and FBI and KGB. I got interested in them. It is a business. Because why do you think people in northern Kenya, like if there is Al-Shabaab in my neighbor, I'm not going to report it. Why? The consequences of reporting it is far much worse than leaving them alone. Uliwaona aje? Ulipata information wapi? Hebu weka hapa. The kind of beatings you're going to receive. Ulijuaje kwanza hao ni Al-Shabaab?
Kwani tunajuaje wewe si Al-Shabaab?
No, they had masks, they had gun. So it is your work. When you were trained to go find out. You go find out. So
what if I just overheard them saying the way they will come and bomb George Padmore Ridge?
You don't say, you say it's none of my business. You just go.
So I just wait for them to bomb.
You don't. No one is going to report Al-Shabaab in Mandera. Why? The consequence of reporting them by the Kenyan security apparatus. Kwanza anti-terror will pick you. You'll be blindfolded, you'll be beaten, you'll be brought to Nairobi, taken to a cold room. A lot of nonsense that were used in KG. Warfare these days is different. So, the Kenyan government does not understand what it is trying to put its hands on.
Okay.
This, if you looked at what Israel did with Lebanon, they did a process of 20 years. For 12 years, they were publishing gadgets in Thailand and other places, and they were supplying the Lebanese, Hezbollah. And when the right time came, they blew them up. 1,500 generals and senior people were killed. So sometimes issues of dealing with intelligence and people's focus, it can be 10 years. Al-Shabaab can decide to plant people in the police. You will not know. Why? They will start recruiting from high school. And they will make sure, because the people controlling them are not. Do you think a very semi-illiterate, ragtag, skinny-looking Somali can do a lot of these sophistication guys in somewhere in the Kemohada? Who is giving him all this information? Who is giving him the intel? Who is feeding him with this information? How did 200 and plus trained Kenyan army, KDF, just lose their life like that? I mean, there must be certain coordination happening. Because I was told that the people who are involved, you'll see there's weaknesses with the men. So they were susceptible to seduction and these things. And I'm sure my friend knows, even in the training, maybe they are told that women, in Iraq the other day, a Jew woman accessed the Hezbollah guys and the Iranian officials. They only discovered after 8 years. So some of these things are long term. Kenya has a border that is 700, more than 700 with Somalia. It has a weak police. I'll tell you that without any doubt.
When you say 700, you mean 700 kilometers?
Kilometers.
Okay. From the length of that border.
The length from, BB1 to Malindi, Lamu, that side.
All right.
It does not have the capacity because they are stealing the money that was meant to be done. Because if I was in charge of security, these special forces, why is it that there are no helicopters and armed drones nearby?
Perhaps Byron can help us understand.
Because Byron need to tell us what happens if Al-Shabaab, 200 of them were sighted, and then we are fighting 20 well-trained KDF. There are some of them there's a Turkana guy who was killed in Asabito. That guy was trained in Israel and Germany place. He was very good. He was a friend. He was very good at his work. Al-Shabaab used to fear him. Why? They knew him. They were tracking him. But he was also tracking them. Why? He got enraged into the Somali culture because he was, he released himself. We are all biased. He removed his bias. And he just said, I'm going to trust people. He employed KPRs. He trained them well in how to gather information, how to detect issues, how to report these things. They did a mistake. Shabaab set a trap for them. Because when they went to the open, Al-Shabaab were in the hill. And I'm not trained, but from what I read, the person on the higher ground has always advantage on the person who could on
the lower ground.
So they shot him. He was the first to be shot. So you see, there is no air support for it. Because my thinking was, if they fight them, Al-Shabaab will try now to run to Somalia. If you can cut them using helicopters, drones, and hit them hard, then that way we will. There is nothing. These guys are not getting support from there. So why do we have helicopters with gunships? Because if you're 20 of them, you fight. You have a Motorola. You send signals. By the time on that side, even Americans, that's what they do. You clear with bombs so that you have ways. So I think there is a lot of gap. Even they are not supported 100% by the security operator.
I think it was sometime last week. I was just asking CT. Kenya has been in AMISOM. It's been in Somalia for, I can't even remember how long now. It's been a very long time. And we are still fighting this war. We are still trying to, control this whole situation with Al-Shabaab. But every now and then, Tuskegee Boni Forest, something has happened. Maybe help me understand as a civilian.
Before you answer, Byron, I mean, this what were you talking about? Because when you hear of Jubaland officers coming to Mandera, where's the Al-Shabaab element there? Remember, I posed a scenario. Issues that have to do with conflict from communities and clans spilling over. Bless you. That was my hypothesis.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, what really are we dealing with? That was really my question. Are we looking at a situation where conflicts that have arisen that are not really political with reference to country, but individuals and communities who have issues, and then carry those issues with individuals who actually are in Kenya and belong to different communities? Are we seeing inter-clan conflicts spilling over? That really is my question.
It is. That's why the Jubaland forces cannot win in Gedo, because they are on this side of Garissa and this trench of Tukismayo side. So what is happening is that the Marihan, who are the majority, the former president Farmajo and Siad Barre, are predominantly in Gedo. The Ogadens are on this side. Garissa.
No. This side is which side?
This side of Garissa, Kismayo.
Those are Ogadens.
These are Ogadens.
Okay. And
those are
fellows?
Marihans. You see, and just like in Kenya, it might be silent, but you'll have Luos, Kikuyus, Kales, all fighting for power.
It isn't silent. It's actually fairly.
You know what I'm saying? Silent in the sense that we are not carrying guns among ourselves.
No.
Yes, you see. But I'm saying this kind of fighting for power is also dominantly there within the Somalis.
A little history here.
Yeah.
Who were the people who led the insurrection that actually got Said Barre out?
Those are the Hawiyas. Those are in Mogadishu now. But it was a accumulation of so many others from Puntland, Swargeisa.
Why I asked the question is because there is a term that I have come across and studied for a while. It's called a vendetta.
Yeah.
Pastoral communities have long memories.
Yeah, very, very long.
And there was which were fought, which actually began some 50 years ago.
Yes.
But it's just carried on and you're fighting. No,
It's being fought even today.
You're fighting it today, but the genesis is not today or last week. The genesis is some 50 years ago.
Yeah.
But now you can answer the question. But I'm still going to go back to what I'm asking.
Well, I do agree. Your question has a lot of validity. If you look at this same history that you're talking about, and the history of, say, marginalization does get into the equation. And with regards to what Johan Galtung called the structural violence theory in 1969, that if you have organizations, within a kind of setup, whether the societies, as he spoke to it, we start by being individuals, then we become, families, then we become societies, then we build nation states, that ordinarily, yes, by the definition in terms of sovereignty, are defined by borders, then you still have communities that spread across those borders. So the common communities, say Turkana, the Pokots of this world, the northeastern, if you talk about particularly Mandera, has those kind of peculiarities as speaking too. And nations will define themselves as sovereign states, by law and of course territorial integrity, by having those borders. And sometimes those borders are very amorphous. Sometimes you have those borders we're speaking about, the 700 kilometers plus, common borders between what now Mandera, the frontier counties, you have the Kenyan territorial borders, and of course Somalia, sharing in a mesh of informal and formal trade, and it relying heavily on movement, whether it's livestock, goods and services, and people. And then, so that brings us to the equation of where then there's contestations. Naturally human beings are not, if you were in heaven, perhaps it would be better. But even heaven, I keep saying, is a gated community where sinners are kept out. I'm saying lightly.
Clearly, you speak as someone who's been there.
Yes, I do. So then these communities have their peculiarity. So you look at Jubaland shared a common interest, and the common interest, I'm talking about a common enemy. By Kenya going into Somalia, there's problems, and we were quite honored to have been the first people in by 2009, 2010. Of course, leading up to 2011 when I was shipping out. So you remember during that time there were different kind of scenarios, and the terrorism was actually just settling in. So Al-Shabaab was that common enemy. So how do we hold a hand? Kenya said yes, by holding a hand in the greater Somalia. Of course, you have Jubaland, you have all these other nation states, member states, because Somalia is a federal republic, right? And so you have these member states. And so Jubaland was a friend, and President Madobe was leading, the militant group that Kenya said, let's capacity build. And that then brought Kenya into capacity building. So there was loads of trainings that did happen. A lot of them are happening, as time goes, even up to about now, that capacity building is still happening. And when you talked about AMISOM, there's been that transition for the lead that's taking place right there in terms of organization and the coordination of the fighting forces. And I'm speaking about the different countries that are troop contributing countries, both military personnel, police, and of course civilian people, for the purposes of basically harnessing the advantages of bringing in peace and fighting the Al-Shabaab as the common threat.
But when you
now
say
those
peace,
Jubaland, yes.
When you say peace,
yes.
Are we saying that even in the absence of Al-Shabaab, that in the larger Somalia, that there is peace, and that these units do not?
Not at all. So those are the challenges. So at the greater level of Somalia itself, Somalia is, we're talking about the republic, the Federal Republic of Somalia, has had its challenges, dating back to what you just cited. So yes, there's a lot of homogeneity. The clan is possibly like, is Tokluyas, but the sub-clans, you have that in Somalia. That's what you're dealing with. And so the political contestation is a big thing. And then now you are talking about the federal states of Somalia that then are also organized in their different forms and political, affiliations. They're autonomous or semi-autonomous, so to speak. And so you are having, like in the case of Jubaland, you're having Jubaland here paying its allegiance to Kismayo. And of course you have the federal forces that are, aligned with Mogadishu. That in and of itself is a point of, the vertical tensions that then come. And then atop that you have this clan dynamics. And then you are now adding other scenarios.
What's the quarrel between Mogadishu and Kismayo? What are they quarreling over?
First of all, let me give a history of who Madobe is. Madobe is someone who was born in Ethiopia. He's not even original from Somalia.
He was born in the Ogaden area of Ethiopia.
Side, yes. Yeah.
All right.
And majority of even the people around him are the people who came from the former regime of Abdi. This is the current Mustafa. Mustafa's brother was killed by the previous regime. And then the previous regime, President Abdi, was arrested by the Ethiopian government. Then everybody in that place found heaven. So the day Madobe will leave, which he will, we don't know when. There are two things that I've learned from Afghanistan. They say always have patience and time will be on your side. There is something you can't fight. You can't fight. That's why we will not win this war. You cannot guard 750 kilometers every day.
Yeah.
We don't. Even if we take the whole of KDF, they will not be enough. Did we make a mistake of going inside? They both take the war to the enemy, but could we have guarded our borders and take the war to the enemy by using our jets? We have very, very infrastructure in the air. Americans use that to bombard people just before, and drones these days. You don't need to go there these days. You just need very good surveillance, raw intelligence, and then you fight from there. So did we mismatch the sophistication of Al-Shabaab? They are very good in the espionage world, and they're very patient.
So now the Somalis.
the ones in Somalia. Now, Madobe is someone who was part of Al-Shabaab. Okay? He was someone who was part of the Islamic Court. He was, a ragtag militia leader himself. So he's not, this sinless superhero. No, he has bullets on his bodies because he was a soldier. So now, just like the Kenyan northern Kenya MPs who don't want to leave office. I say, do people have a lot of things to do in their life? He was in KDF, he left, he's going to do something else, then maybe tomorrow he's a farmer. You need to do things in life.
Yeah.
But if you want to become obsessed with power, a time will come. Where is Saddam Hussein? Where is Libya, Gaddafi? Where is everybody? You see. So, the complexity, as a Kemal Hada myself who grew up in the north, there's a book recently, I saw one of Kenyans reading, about Sir Charles Eliot in 1905. And he was talking about the Somali. Every certain society or people God created have certain things. You talk of the Luos in this country. We always associate who is going to brag for us if we don't have Luos in this country, because they will tell you Luo, being a Luo is a lifestyle.
It's a software.
It's a software. These are creations of our imaginations. You know, Luos don't walk; they come, they arrive. You talk of Luyas, you're talking about eating. You talk of Kikuyus, you talk about stealing. You talk of warriors, you talk about banditry and these things.
Now, these are the stereotypes
in the societies. So if you read Charles Eliot, he says Somalis are not people you fight and then they shake hands. No, they revenge and then they have to, every time an Italian, every time a Somali was whipped, 2 Italians were whacked. You see, it's just the way we are. And then men. You see, look at Palestine from 1945. The Israelis are pushing them, but there's still a problem. Our problem in Africa, when you go, Europe had problems. Norway is like 120 years independent after 1905. But they had problems with the Swedish. They had problems with the Danish.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, they were one time part of it.
They were at constant war among themselves.
Bergen, which is a town in the Vikings, used to kill people. These were hunters and gatherers. The Norwegians, it is not as rosy as it is. Because when I went there this time, the Danish were the ones controlling both Swedish and yes, you see. And then you talk of Northern Ireland and Scotland. Look at America. America was a colony of the British.
Yes.
Just because they were 200 years ahead of us, it doesn't mean that those flyovers and beautiful airports when you go to JF
Actually,
Kennedy,
they had
the worst. In fact, we are more civilized.
For someone to bring them peace.
Yes.
The history of Europe, and if you send to Scandinavia, is a history of constant
war and hunting and gathering. You see,
so
if you look at us, when Chinua Achebe was in school, and I don't know whether you've read his books and watched his interviews.
I read one, Man of the People.
Yeah, he said, we always, think that the white man was special by defending his adventure until I know I was the savage. So Africans, we had life. By the way, there is no Western civilization. If you look at it critically, there's a lot of things that are happening. So
I want us to take a short break, gentlemen. These stories are so interesting. Mpaka nikasahau kuna news. So let's do the news. When we return, let's talk about Ragnar Lothbrok because so here's the news with Winnie Maganga.
Radio generation, the sound is fine. Pump it up, turn it high all the time. Let the music move you, let's sway. Radio G's got your jam all day.
Radio Generation, the home of urban soul. This is the Radio Generation News.
Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has summoned 8 high-ranking officers who have served in various departments of Nakuru County Government. This is over alleged irregular payments of 22 million Kenya shillings in legal fees to private law firms. In a letter dated September 2nd, 2025, which surfaced over the weekend, the Commission instructed the officers to appear in person at the EACC South Rift regional offices for questioning. The 8 are expected to explain how legal services amounting to 22.6 million Kenya shillings were procured from private law firms without the approval of the County Executive Committee and allegedly bypassing the county attorney as revealed in recent report by the Auditor General. President William Ruto has called for reforms in the use of special drawing rights under the International Monetary Fund. Speaking on global financial reforms, Ruto said the Resilience and Sustainability Facility, which was designed to channel SDRs for climate action, has instead become tied to IMF programs and traditional conditions. He stressed that SDRs should serve people, not procedures, and argued that they be directed toward climate resilience and sustainable development. The president was speaking at the second Africa CARICOM Summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia on Sunday.
Special drawing rights were intended to support climate action and resilience. They must not become another instrument of conditionality. The Resilience and Sustainable Facility, designed to channel SDRs for climate, has become an add-on to IMF programs bound by traditional conditions. SDRs must serve people, not procedure. Number 5, energy sector integration. IMF debt sustainability analysis must account for energy sector reform. Without significant investment in power systems, green industrialization will remain a deferred dream.
Police are investigating an incident where a police officer shot and killed 2 boda riders near Makongeni police station in Thika town. The drama unfolded Sunday morning after a road accident involving the officer and a rider with his passenger. Witnesses say the officer attached to the station had knocked them down in what police described as a non-injury accident before the confrontation turned fatal. The officer's vehicle was set ablaze during the incident. He is currently in custody.
Ile tu accident ya kawaida ilipatana na mtu wangu akiwa amebeba customer wake, akaguzwa nyuma na gari. Hapo ndipo wale walikuwa nyuma walikuja kusaidia, kuuliza huyu mwenye amewaguza, bona unaenda na umewaruza watu pale nyuma. Kupelekwa hapa station, ndio jamaa alikuwa na funjo, alikuwa mrevi sana, na hapo ndio tulinotice ako na buduki. Jamaa alitoa buduki akashoot hawa majamaa wawili wenye sio wenye walikuwa kwa accident, wenye walikuwa anakuja kusaidia.
An Australian judge sentenced convicted killer Erin Patterson on Monday to life in prison with parole after 33 years of killing 3 people with toxic mushrooms, capping a trial that sparked a global media frenzy. 50-year-old Patterson was convicted in July of triple murder for serving a poisonous meal to her estranged husband's parents, aunt and uncle during a sumptuous beef Wellington lunch at her home in 2023. A trial drew podcasters, film crews, and true crime fans to a courthouse in the rural town of Morwell. Audiences from New York to New Delhi followed every twist of what many simply call the mushroom murders.
For the attempted murder of Ian Wilkinson, I sentence you to 25 years imprisonment. For the murder of Heather Wilkinson, I sentence you to life imprisonment. For the murder of Gail Patterson, I sentence you to life imprisonment. For the murder of Don Patterson, I sentence you to life imprisonment. All sentences are to be served concurrently. The total effective sentence is life imprisonment, and I fix a non-parole period of 33 years. I declare that you have served 676 days by way of pre-sentence detention.
And that's the truth on Radio Generation. Good morning, I'm Winnie Maganga.
In the beginning, there was morning radio.
I've never seen anything like this.
But now there is Radio Generation's The People's Breakfast. Curious and bold, getting facts from the shadows.
That's what it is.
Now, as the city wakes and secrets stir, a bright new voice shines. The People's Breakfast. Your morning, your voice, your journey.
You got it locked.
Good morning.
Good morning, my neighbor.
Welcome to the home of hard truths and bold insights. Radio Generation.
Welcome back. This is Radio Generation. The People's Breakfast is where we are at. The conversation earlier on was very interesting. I even forgot that we were to do news. But yes, I apologize for that. But here we are. We are back. And I think I caught one of you talking. We shall revisit that conversation shortly. In studio, we do have Siti Muga. And then we have our guests who are actually we're having a very interesting conversation. I hope you guys actually listen and tuned in. So we have Byron Adera, he's a security expert, and we also have Abdullahi Alas, he's a governance and policy analyst, and we're talking about the entry of Jubaland forces into Kenya. But tumejipata tukiongea juu ya Al-Shabaab, but it's more or less the same thing, because we're also trying to understand this whole clan system in Somalia, and you've explained a lot of things that personally I didn't know up until this particular moment, and I just want to understand as we recap, as we get back rather to where we were. The reason we have Jubaland forces in Kenya is because they are running for their lives, or they've been chased by Al-Shabaab, or are they chasing Al-Shabaab in Kenya?
They were chased by the Somali National Army. So they were overpowered.
It's the okay.
They were overpowered. First of all, I want to answer.
So they actually are Jubaland.
I want to answer CT sentiment.
Yes.
Jubaland forces are in Mandera.
They are running for their lives.
They are in BB1.
Okay.
That's where Kenya starts from. They were overpowered.
BB1.
By a former
BP. That's border point.
Border point 1.
Okay.
BP1.
Okay.
Border point 1. That's where Kenya border started from.
Okay.
So, Janan, who is now in charge of Belhawa, was a former minister for Jubaland, but he came from the subclan of the Marihan Somali, within the Somalis. So before, when they, and I told you there is a big, the moment KDF pulls out, the moment KDF pulls out, there will be an interclan conflict there in pursuit of power between the Marihans and the Ogadens and the other Somalis. But now what I'm generally saying is Kenyan interest might have been good, but Kenyan people do not understand the nitty-gritty dynamic huko chini. And you know, if I'm employed today by Kenyan government, I'm going to tell President Ruto the truth, whether it's between my clan and other people. You tell them strategically this is what's going to lead. It's going to mutate to this. So Jubaland forces have ran away for their lives because Hassan Sheikh, who is the president of Somalia, supported Janan, who is from the same community, and a state is always more powerful than a county. It's like Mandera fighting Kenyan national government. What if we decide the 2 million of us, we are going to mobilize 200,000, we are going to arm ourselves, we are going to train in Mogadishu, we are going to be headache for the Kenyan government.
I'm sorry for laughing.
You see, I'm trying to paint a picture. It's like Mandera County fighting the national government, because Jubaland is a region.
So let me understand this again for my grandmother, who's, I hope she's listening. What we are saying is,
your grandmother speaks English.
Don't worry.
She has a translator next to her.
Don't worry.
What we are saying is, so Jubaland being one of the counties. So let's say Nairobi. No, let's say Machakos County. So Machakos County, Jubaland, So Machakos County has got forces. And these forces have been chased away by the Nairobi government. Okay. Now I get it.
Now, what, you know, Somalia is a very peculiar country. I worked there for 10 years. My skin, you know, we were called the skinny looking by the story in Black Hawk.
Black Hawk Down.
Black Hawk Down. One of the characters.
It's a movie, but it has historical facts.
I also watch movies, so I know what
a movie is a genre of literature.
Thank you.
A movie is a genre of literature.
Thank you.
So it teaches a lot.
Yes.
The imagination of a war is just what people do. So the thing is that
thoroughly inflated.
We have less than 15 million. We have less than 15 million with 7 presidents.
Okay.
That's what Somalia is about.
Yes, you see, you cannot have Jubaland as a president. It's like now the governor of Mandera is the president of Mandera.
Yes.
Machakos, we have a president. Gladys Wanga is the president of Bigori. Kuna upuzi mingi, because if you look Homa Bay, you see, if you look at federalism, it's not going to work in Somalia. Federalism works in people with different faiths, different languages, different dialects, a lot of other things if you study it. That's why devolution is working in Kenya, because the design was deliberate. And I'm happy for the guys who wrote the constitution, because majority were coming from across Kenya.
I
think there were only 2 Kikuyus, and I'm good there were only 2, because they will have overtaken everything. Now, what I always say, do not interfere with my thought. What I always say is when Kenyan brain comes together.
You are profiling.
No, I'm not profiling. I'm just joking.
Yes.
I have more friends Kikuyus than Somalis.
You are profiling.
No, well, they did. They called me Shifta and Al-Shabaab. Boniface Mwangi always called me Al-Shabaab. I call him Mungiki. So that's just a societal, stereotypes. So, you see, when Kenya comes together, if you look at the composition of the guys who wrote the constitution, those are the best brains. This country can be number one in Africa. We are now competing with Nigeria, South Africa, Ghana, and Egypt. Believe you me, the kind of human resource we have, the kind of capital we have, the kind of budgets we have, if we only stop stealing and we put mediocrity in our places. Imagine a Luo engineer in charge of northern Kenya. You want to bribe a Luo engineer, he looks at you and tells you, bro, this is not how we do things.
Okay.
You bring the best of Somalis, the best. It's not every Luo who is corrupt, or every Somali who is corrupt, or every Kikuyu who is corrupt. Look at what Maraga is doing. Maraga, whatever he believes in, in Allah tells us Muslims, you judge people from what they say. What is inside them, you don't know. That's why you just take the word of someone. When Maraga picks the Bible in front of a panel and says, I swear I've never paid bribe and I've never taken, it's appearing from his body. The Prophet ﷺ told us all people who steal from other people, they are like elephants.
Utawaona.
Utawaona nyama wanakula because it's not sio yao. So our Jew consciously, they need to stay fit. This is people's money. You don't need to live, you need to be fit. Hiyo vitu itasaulika. Kazi yako ni kubeba tu. There was an OCS I saw the other day on news. That was like 1,000 kgs. I was like, ulikula nini? So you see, what I'm trying to say is this: our country's best men.
Yeah.
Yes. We had Ouko in this country. We had Ahmed Khalif in this country. We had Tomboy in this country. There are people who did not die. The soul left, the body left, but the souls are. J.M. Kariuki did not die. J.M. Kariuki was murdered, yes. The body left us.
Yeah.
J.M. Kariuki is alive. Because every time I was not born, my mother was not even married. I think my dad did not even know my mom when J.M. was killed in 75.
Okay.
But today, I have read about him. I would love to go and meet his. That's how human beings, when you are decent, people respect virtuous, decent human beings. It's not about money.
I'd like Byron perhaps to, just the other day, I think it was there's a paper last week that said, is it a paper or did I read a meme? I'm not even sure where I saw this information.
You saw a movie.
Maybe it's a movie I watched. But I understand Egyptian forces have now joined the AMISOM team.
It's not AMISOM. It's translated. It's transited from AMISOM. It was ATMIS, the African Union Transmission.
AMISOM has now changed names.
Yes, it changed from AMISOM. Then it went to ATMIS. Yeah, the African Union Transition Mission in Somalia. It's now IAUSOM, which is African Union Support and Stabilization Mission in Somalia, which de jure came into force on the 1st of January this year, 2025. And the full transition took place in March 2025. And yes, Egypt joined.
Yes.
There were problems between Ethiopia, right, and of course Somaliland at the top.
And Ethiopia
access to the port, but that's since been handled, and of course now Ethiopia is bringing forces back in. As part of the troop contributing countries.
Yes.
During the ATMIS as well, there was Kenya, there's Burundi, there was Ghana, and some forces from West Africa. So that was the nature of the composition of the TCC in Somalia. But then, yes, in terms of what you just spoken to, a number of concepts that I'd want to also reiterate. I introduced the structural violence theory. That's something that's really, alive even in within the borders. Johan Galtung, 1969, that the way of societies, organizations are just postured in and of itself can cause people to gravitate towards violence by, the society or the organization of those kind of setups preventing them from reaching their basic needs. And so Somalia is peculiar and is spoken about the tribal or the clan dynamics, much as you'd expect the dominant religion as well. I mean, well over 99% being Islam. So it's not too many of these. You have the Jehovah's Witnesses on speaking casually though.
Yeah.
In Luyaland and the Jesus of that part. You're thinking homogeneity, almost homogeneity across the board. So why are we having this problem? So those are the really deeper questions to scrutinize when we are talking Project Somali. And he's right to talk about those clan dynamics that then are organized into these different federal states, also then sharing in, the extrapolation of those dynamics. So much so that when you have presidents in charge of the federal member states, and then you have a president in charge of the Somaliland, and what is spoken to in terms of then now the infighting and the affiliations that you have between this member state and whatever, regional leadership and the other, to a point, occasions this kind of vertical tensions, then it becomes very interesting from those perspectives. And so the suffering then that Kenya shares in is not merely the fact that Kenya took the lead, and I spoke to it. Kenya had the best of interest. We have a common enemy here. Terrorism, and to answer City's concerns, is a transnational kind of threat. George Bush stood in the rubble after 9/11, and he said terrorism anywhere is terrorism everywhere. Indeed it is. The very fact that it's this transnational means, and ideological, so to speak, means that war can be propagated from 1,000 miles away, and it is you interacting in the social media spaces that then you get more or less recruited into the ranks and file. And you've seen the lone wolf now that you watch movies. It's just one individual waking up and saying, yeah,
I'm actually watching The Dark Wolf right now, Terminalist.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
So then you get an individual who wakes up and says, I'm angry at the way the government is working, and I'm angry at the level of profiling that I'm suffering. I'm angry at the historical marginalization. You look at being involved in the analysis of the northern frontier quite a bit, and of course the Capedo, and you talk about the Baragoi, spoke to that. And sadly, we've lost gallant men and women, the warriors that have been in those spaces. And you find someone saying, Naenda Kenya, like he's going to Kenya, like they feel that they're outside the borders. And we are not talking about just this government, it's been very historical. So the northern frontier have shared in those kind of stuff that are summarized under the structural violence theory. But then there's more to it. The very fact that people don't feel part and parcel of the national cake, and it's not just the cake, but just the recognition that we there. And so when we are talking about the perception gap, the very fact that then there's just the idea that the government may be dismissive or silent on the concerns of individuals. From that perspective alone, there are deeper issues of sovereignty and of course territorial integrity. And I'm talking about this from the aspect of not just territoriality being an aspect of a principle of law, but a status, social status that then yourself, City here, myself, would feel that yes, we have been recognized. So from those perspectives alone, there is a big gap. And when you're talking ideological war that we are fighting, a belligerent or an adversary like Al-Shabaab that are as good as they are, will see those kind of things. And when you are susceptible, you stand for nothing, as they say, is fall for everything. So that then creates a populace that are susceptible to those other narratives, and that's a dangerous standpoint to actually review. So whether bullets have flown or not is not a big question. The bigger question is, what kind of susceptibility are we maybe allowing to get involved in this equation that then people will become, they're not feeling part of this home. So you say, oh, my neighbor is doing better, And so those are the grave concerns that you're talking about. But then there's much more to it. The political, leadership that are in these parts of the lands are also people that, they hold sway. So the idea about information integrity and strategic communication, to mention, is very, very important. And as mentioned earlier, in the border kind of space, or joy in general, the war theater of war, information operations are actually precious.
Talking of information,
yes,
Kenya has an alliance understanding with the US. The only other countries that we know have these things are the Europeans, NATO. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, which brings me to the information, and which brings me to intelligence.
Yes.
Given what we understand and what's in the public domain about electronic surveillance that the intelligence forces and military forces within the US have, Are we saying that it is not possible for them to have known that there was a group of people moving towards Kenya? Because if there is a war and people are fighting, are we saying that this cannot be picked up so that you know in advance this is what is going to happen? And if you know it is going to happen.
Well, if I can, nothing is absolutely foolproof, bulletproof. And intelligence, the belief that intelligence is really that sophisticated is a myth.
Is it
the
really?
sophistication of intelligence lies in the bulk of it. Everywhere you go is human intelligence. Yes, there's a whole lot of things as you will admire in the movies and the NSAs of this world.
No.
So
this isn't my reference isn't to movies.
Yeah, I get it.
My
I get it. I'm
reference
coming
is
to
to
that.
electronic surveillance.
Absolutely. So then let me answer. So when they say they say this, if they are very clever in the modern way, you track them down the traditional way. A lot of the operations that you get to witness amongst the ranks and file of very unconventional forces like the Mujahideen or the Al-Shabaab, so to speak, are sophisticated as well in the traditional way. That what we've discussed with you does not get to him if it's not this basically they believe in working in this kind of solutions so as to break that silos. Kind of, so that is one silos.
The silos.
So that is one aspect. So they're basically operating, if you are clever like that in the modern way, then they go down the traditional way. So they believe in basically you get information by hand, by ear to ear, and then it's transmitted, and there's a need to know. So City doesn't know what we know, and you don't even know that there's this person behind him on this side. So that is one. The other bit is the unconventionality of the operations, which makes it hard. You and I, myself and someone else will be operating very, and under the rules of engagement as well. They don't pay attention to those kind of rules of engagement. And to the point that even the type of what's recognized under the rules of engagement, and where you expected to dress in particular uniforms, they are not adhering to such kind of things. So it makes it really, and the blending. He spoke to the very aspect of how the homogeneity in terms of the tribal composition, the clanism right there, and just the way they look, the skinny, it's all the same across the board. So it's really difficult, especially when this then is added to other aspects of deception, like they move by night, let's say. Even the most sophisticated of those, we'll just see a swarm of human beings moving, but aren't they moving by the kind of mesh of informal and formal trade? This they do. So when they even carry their weapon systems by vehicles, and this is normal, supply of what is the challenge in some of those areas, you will not pick that unless you invest very heavily in human intelligence. And I want to speak to that human intelligence and the gaps that exist as well. The Somalis are peculiar, and to the point that he spoke to it, they will not tell of each other very easily. So you need really an investment that goes really deep in time to infiltrate. So target infiltration is really difficult from that perspective as well. And then there's other scenarios which I'll speak to too. So you talk about the common border that is of that length, and how many are we? You cannot police every inch of that border. That is one. And so that plays vis-a-vis, if you analyze that side by side with what you'd want to harness and seize its initiatives on in terms of the national will. So bringing people together on top of this national cake so they feel part and parcel. So then you are building that buy-in. If that buy-in doesn't exist, then again, the information that they have, you got it underneath it, and the motives in between that need to build those bridges. If they don't exist, then it becomes harder for people to shine.
But what is now puzzling is that there's still absolute denial by the Kenyan government.
Yes, it's absolute denial is a mechanism of securitization. It's not common to Kenya. I think my friend will agree with me that the CIA uses covert operations, and then there is deniability of the people. They will be told, like mercenaries, they will be told, we'll give you money, like the guys fighting in Ukraine or these places. You'll be told, listen, this operation is very complex, we'll give you your money, we'll give you everything we agreed if you're caught.
Deniability.
No, we don't know you. You never worked for us. So that is but mine is how Kenyan. Do you know we trained some of the soldiers for Jubaland here? There's a book I'm going to bring here so that you understand these things very well about Mandera. It's called Impediment to Peace in Mandera County, co-funded by Interpeace and NCIC. I was the audiovisual head, so I interviewed more than 900 people across that border. That's why I know so well. And one of the things I was sharing with my friends is to say some of the things were internal factors include clan incitement and competition, resources scarcity, the county location along the porous border with Ethiopia and Somalia, deficit of counter coordination policies, mechanism for cross-border security, movement and trade, hinders efforts to address these governance and policy challenges, lack of national government investment, perception from history, all these things. You see, today, my father was shot by the shifter then. He's alive. They shot him from this side. The bullet exited here, went through the wall, and it killed one of the bandits.
Okay.
I think I was 2 years old.
It went through him into the wall and killed the bandit.
Killed the other guy. Now,
that must have been one hell of a bullet.
Well, it is just the length of, shooting an AK-47 or G3 from a very short distance. Some of us are well acquainted with these guns because they are all over.
Okay.
At the shifter war, people were learning to survive. If you have 100 camos, you need to either register it or... And there are more guns with civilian in this country than the government, if you research. I think they are 6 to 1 or 5 to 1. If you go to the north, Kenyans killing... my concept of the north is Turkanas, Samburus, Pokots, killing KDF. So these are not Americans killing white men or black men. These are Kenyan forces and Kenyan people killing each other. How did you get to that? It emanates from a development question. Pokots I think up to now most of them have no proper chiefs or proper schools, so they became very wild. They are sharpshooters, and these are 20 years old. There's a time Matiang'i was looking for the top Turkana and the top Pokot guys. We brought them here to him. Why? That guy is married to 4, 5, 7 women. He has like 500 kids. He doesn't recognize this country. He is in his own world. So Kenya played part by training Jubaland for police officers and people with guns there. So policy-wise, that's almost a failed country. So this is a Kenyan-grown high school dropout. Some of them came back and became a problem in Elwak and Mandera and these places. Why? There was no proper coordination in terms of salary. You take a Kenyan to Somalia and you pay him $100 or $200. What is he going to do with that? So they started running away with their guns and coming back home. They became a problem locally because they have skills. They know how to kill, they know how to shoot, they know how to train other people. So they started earning money using their skills. So the Kenyan government, whether it denies or not, the media is going there very soon, so we'll see them. Very investigative guys have already contacted us. They will go and investigate them. If we want, I train people on project management. You look at the visibility and the sustainability of anything you're doing. It's not sustainable to keep KDF in Somalia, both in human, losing people, and in terms of resources, in terms of infrastructure. I know they are supported by the US. A certain amount, KDF is funded a certain percentage, the Ministry of Defense, there are certain percentage, the US funds. What happens if they cut off? What happens if we go into an emergency? What happens? A lot of things. What if? You see, we have a lot to deal with in this country. Okay? Our president is busy. I said yesterday when talking to a Kenyan, we had many Kenyans from Vienna, from Brussels, from London. We all came gathered there and we were like 40, 50 of us in that plane. Kenyans are educated and well-traveled. The discipline of governance is an investment by the state. I told you where Norway came from. But today, it is literally ripping off every building in Oslo and making it new. Roads are being ripped off. Why? The people who started this country in 1905 laid a foundation. You see, the Kenyattas and the Mois of this world, the kind of governance they laid for us as that of Biwott, total man, abducting people, killing people, stealing land in Yaya, building it. When he died, it was sold. They never built a country for everyone. A country for everyone is a country that is not monarch, doesn't have a king, everyone is the same. The Prime Minister of Norway, a country that has the best life standard in the world, is cycling. It is safe for a 10-year-old girl in Oslo to go to school and come back. It is safe for a drunkard woman to just help herself anywhere. She can just urinate in the streets and go home drunk. No one is going to bother her. Why? Violence, to some extent, has the background of poverty. Whether it is in the trauma of Ruto, because he was a chicken seller, he's not. You're not going to satisfy things if you're not contented with what you have. You will always look for more. That's why you need to control this soul, and you eat once, you keep fit, you live within your means. Otherwise, if you just open your wallet and then you become greedy, utakufa tu bure. So what we are saying is that it is not sustainable to meddle in Somali affairs.
Okay.
We have two factors. The majority of the clans, the Somali clan, the Ogadens in Garissa, majority to go there, and the Garris in Mandera, majority, but they all live each other. They also live in Somalia. They also live in Ethiopia. I have my cousins living. He talked about hereditary, the genetical, 5, 6 generations, 7 generations.
Yeah.
We have them next to Jigjiga. You see, they are bringing their kids to Mandera, and they are going to school. We have people from Somalia who are in this government. We have people from Somalia who are medical doctors. Why? You can become a Kenyan citizen either by marriage, naturalization, refugee. You buy it in if you have money. You can. And then, I wonder with Ruto and his co and Murkomen. It is easy to get a Kenyan. Any Luo from South Sudan can get ID anywhere. He will just go to Bondo area, bribe a chief. He looks like him. He speaks like him. Utajua aje? Anaandikiwa tu Onyango Ochenga bado anapatiwa kipande. Utafanya nini? There's nothing. You need to invest, as he said, in the trust, the human trust of Kenyans. That yesterday we were in the airport waiting for a bus for more than 15 minutes.
In Kenya.
In the airport.
You had arrived.
Tulishuka kwa ndege, tunapigwa na baridi, wa vijana wawili wadogo, wapi pass? That is our government. That is our people. That is our country. We don't have a seamless. I went to Oslo, I bought a card with 9,000 Kenya equivalent. I was using it 100 times a day. Bus, train, tram, boat. Hapa, unless we improve our standards. Matatu ile tuko nayo isli bro. Unafikiria nduko 1960. Ukiingia kanzu inararuka unadungwa na chuma. We have not valued ourselves by creating, trams, very good buses. Like if you go to area of Kariobangi, sewage everywhere, sewer. And Kasakaja is making a lot of noise. So we have not been trained to have better life for each other.
Abdullahi obviously having traveled all over this world, and I get his frustration. The fact that you can go to a place like Norway and then you're looking at what is happening back at home and you're like, Akishuali. If we're being honest, what is happening in Kenya is not really unique. Sorry, it's not really unique. We have also other places all over the world where they're having issues with their neighbors. But here in Kenya, it looks like it's either something is not, like for example, we had Jubaland forces getting into Kenya. So are we saying, are they refugees? Are they being accommodated by the Kenyan government? As a security expert, what's the relationship between what is happening with Jubaland forces and Mandera? Like, what is it?
Well, thanks for that question. The strict part of it, if you are to put that question to close scrutiny, from where I sit, it's not even about whether it's a yes or no answer. It's the perception gap that is created by the absence of strategic communication, and of course when we are missing out on the information integrity. And right about now, in very highly socialized world as we are in today, rumors and mistruths or half-truths will fly around the globe a lot faster. Even when the corrections come later, then it doesn't make as much sense. The scenarios we are talking about here in terms of the presence, whether that was even transient, like they just got in for a little while, and when we are talking against the backdrop of the vertical tensions that are, and of course the clan dynamics, top it up with the insurgency pressure, that then possibly occasion these sporadic or episodal confrontations, checkpoints, perspectives come into the equation, shifting checkpoints, whether they could be legal transactions, say taxations and stuff like that. And, the allegations of pursuits, hot pursuits that then possibly led to the spillover into the territorial borders of this country. Deeper questions are on sovereignty and so, of course, the territorial integrity. And whether this is based on just the perceptions that we talk about and the perception gaps that then arise, then they raise deeper concerns as to whether we are able to police the borders that we are boasting of. Grave concerns in terms of security pathways are that misidentification could really, lead to awkward situations. And if we normalize, cross-border, presence of foreign actors or foreign forces without the frameworks, the public frameworks that are known for admission of such elements, then that normalization sets us up for a very bad precedent. One of them is the misidentification I've spoken to that may lead to confrontations. If our for forces, legit forces from the part of the land, so NPS, I'm talking National Police Service, or even KDF elements, that then get to meet these individuals, if we deny their presence or otherwise, then it definitely can lead to awkward confrontations. Remember, and he's talked about it, that Jubaland, or the Jubaland forces, especially from the standpoint of the Al-Shabaab, their perception is that the Jubaland forces are actually a proxy army for Kenya. So if you imagine then these confrontations
that is their
occur,
position.
Yes, that these confrontations then occur between the Kenyan forces because of misidentification. So I'm talking about the security pathways here and the risks, attendant risks that can generate. You remember, if that then gets whipped up, the information warfare by the Al-Shabaab, because they are using that kind of warfare as well, and very optimistically so, to create and of course to add more oxygen to the propaganda agenda, and to whip up, play into the general fear narrative on the part of the public. That is one. And two, when you are talking about still on the security pathways and the attendant risks, is the fact that the presence, or whether transient or not, and in manners that are not acceptable by the frameworks, then we are staring in the face of diplomatic kind of fiasco, so to speak. Even if the government is solidly involved and behind the scenes things are happening, the general perception of the part of the public is that we are left to our own mechanics. The officials or the leadership in these kind of spaces have spoken to it, but the more problems that we have in terms of just people, the indecisive fear or decisive fear on the part of the general public that may not be going about their normal duties, say economic or social, of whatever nature, then it means that there's degradation of life. So issues about territorial or sovereignty, issues on territorial integrity that go well beyond people just setting foot across the borders into your land, then we are staring in the face of maybe humanitarian drama that may bedevil these areas or these kind of frontier counties that already are suffering from lack of whatever nature. So people already walking long distances, and if then you are to add more distances because you have to avoid this and the other area because there's these people that are unidentified and existing, then you're adding on to pain, to more already grave suffering on the part of the citizenry in this part of the land. So what I would want to say, as a way to possibly address these perceptive gaps in terms of just information, the fear on the part of the public, and or the general concerns about whether the government still, so talking about the national will, that we got to address issues of, let's say, just bringing out that information and rapid passage of credible, verifiable information, and know the fourth estate is doing a good job in this part of the country. We are not lacking in this kind of information and this kind of discussions. They're very rich. So that should actually inform part and parcel of what the citizen on that part of the land, set up hotlines 24/7. So you make a sighting, and then you have a multi-agency patrol teams to possibly go about joint verification with the leadership that are there. That will go a long way in terms of bringing together the citizenry, and of course just get them to feel part and parcel of this country.
So Jubaland forces, they are currently refugees in Kenya.
Well, I said there are two.
Because if they are fleeing, they're running away, and they have sought asylum in our country, they are refugees.
They don't qualify. They have guns. Refugees are civilian. Yeah.
750 kilometers.
Yes.
That's the border. Of these 750 kilometers, what percentage is the border between Kenya and Jubaland?
Well, Jubaland, if you look at the map as it is, Jubaland is well over the percentage wise. I may not speak to
The
it, but
highest.
it's well over. It's around the entire part.
Almost 60%.
Right.
Over
So,
almost
so,
60%.
so
The
if one were to introduce the idea
Yes.
of Jubaland providing a buffer,
No, let me hold you there. Of the 60%, the government of Jubaland is in charge of less than 20%. They are surrounded by Al-Shabaab. They are 20 kilometers from Kismayu. They can't. Even them, Jubaland. You know, Jubaland is big. Lower Shabelle, Middle Shabelle, all these places. Majority of these areas outside Kismayu is controlled by Al-Shabaab. And some part by the federal government.
I see.
Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily mean Ahmed Madobe is in charge of all Jubaland.
Yes.
In theory, yes.
So
But practically,
yes.
there are communities that do not want him. That's one. Two, there are areas controlled by Al-Shabaab. Three, there are areas controlled by the national government. Four, he cannot come out. If he does, he has more enemy hunting him than him being safe in Kismayo.
Okay.
So essentially, what we are saying is this, or what we are saying, in my mind, is a question. So, of what use is Jubaland to Kenya?
Yes?
Of what use is Jubaland controlled by Madobe to Kenya?
Well, the history of the insurgency that's happening in Somalia is such that you have Al-Shabaab straight in the middle of it. And it's a common enemy, as I said. And part of capacity building...
Byron,
yes.
Allow me to pause. I'm being rude, but forgive me.
Go ahead.
Why do we have a problem with Al-Shabaab?
Well, terrorism is a transnational threat. Yes.
When America went and fought that war in Iraq, you could as well have called them terrorists.
Yes.
They went to somebody else's
And by
country.
the way, Al-Shabaab have not been categorized as terrorists by the United States. If
So
you
I'm
look at the
asking-
Homeland website,
Yes.
Al-Shabaab is not a terrorism
our
organization.
problem
according
with
to them.
Al-Shabaab?
Well, we have had spectaculars within the Republic of Kenya, right? That are of the nature that you can define as terrorism. And by Kenya going into Somalia, and the invasion that did take place inside Somalia was to hunt down, take the war to them, as he said. And part of fighting that war inside Somalia, and we're talking about the Jubaland forces, Madobe has a long-standing history. Capacity building in terms of getting Somalia to stand on its own 2 feet has been the professionalization, and part of that is training.
And Kenya has played a big part in
Kenya
it.
has played a very big part. Kenya has been involved in a lot of capacity building in that part of the land. I mean, the sufferings that is spoken to are all going into the definition of the risk that you take in terms of actually taking your neck out to go do a job that is of grand benefit or mutual benefit well, within the troop contributing countries that have been bedeviled by the same kind of threat, and majorly Kenya that has borne the brunt.
Byron, what is this threat?
No, let me
The threat is terrorism.
chip in.
I mean, the threat is terrorism, the threat is to territory integrity.
There is a silent principle
Yes.
of a more deceptive thing. Kenya and Somalia were neighbors. Somalia got more independent before independence. They got in 60, we got in 63.
Yes.
Somalia's military was way sophisticated for Kenya then. Let me
Somalia's business community was more sophisticated than Kenya, and even then.
Even then.
The educational institutions were more sophisticated than ours, even then. Yes.
Now, when Somalia went down, that was in 1992. Okay? So we had clan issues all the time. Now, the principle of fighting everywhere, we might color it with chocolate of religion, ethnicity is power and economical resource controlling. Every war in the world, whether it's the United States, whether it's Kenya going to Somalia,
I want you to repeat this.
Yeah.
Power and economic gains. That my brother here can and hear you, because I keep telling him. It's about money.
It's about money.
Yes.
That's why Kenyatta appointed 6 cabinet ministers from Kiambu in 1967.
Okay.
It was access to resources. These other, we should not address the desserts or the menu. We should address the food.
Let's talk about
the main meal.
The main of politics is power and resources.
Okay.
You cannot get resources without getting power. When Kibaki came, he might have done few things good, yes. But it was a stupid idea to have thicker highway on that road than to build Mombasa to Nairobi. from an economical analysis perspective, policy-wise, this one will have given us more money than this one. But because majority of access to central Kenya was this, he had to put it through Thika Road, which is still a stupid idea, but a very better idea. A stupid idea is better, like now the expressway. There might be allegation of Uhuru stealing and having, it is a thief who is smart. At least we are using it. At least it's easing some things. What Ruto is doing is absolutely not beneficial to anyone. So you would rather have a Kikuyu thief as a president than a Kenyan intellectual. From where we sit.
Again, you're
now,
profiling.
Power, yeah, I am. You were profiling us for the last 6 years. I want you to
so you're revenging?
No, I am. Now that you gave me the platform, lightly speaking.
Okay.
Now, our country, its governance is a business oriented. My friend here trained, risked, maybe broke his ribs. Those are the type of people you give interior. Why? I don't need to be educated about how the military will fight. I have to know so that I tell them what to do. Murkomen is a lawyer. You gave him interior. And then, so he turned tupa. So you defense. What kind of a joke is that? You know, Nani told us, Stephen Leto, that alikuwa anapanda miti na Ruto. Now, you don't commercialize interior and defense. Nkaiseri was one time the Minister of Interior. Now, when you give, why do we have journalists working in studios? Why do we have doctors working in theaters? Why do we have brain surgeon not doing the uterus but doing the brain? This government is thinking that you're stupid. For you to work in security, you can learn. And I told you there is a difference between learning theoretical work. Practical sometimes are more educative.
Yeah.
That's why I know a lot about security, because I lived through it. You see, and I've read about it. The country's commercialization of both policy and governance is our problem.
Okay.
Long term, they don't look at it. Now, Ruto and Kenyatta, the problem they have is they are not looking at post 10 years. When you're planning for a country, you're doing 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years.
Yes.
If there was a plan to open up northern Kenya from 63 to 73 to 83 to 93, why don't we have a railway from here to Mandera?
Okay.
Why don't we have a railway from here to Kisumu? Why?
You know, the Kisumu one we have.
Yeah, but it's not that.
Maybe we should have one to Turkana.
Turkana, you see. Why don't we have a road through Kapedo? Why should they go through Kitale? So there are people who are controlling the country. And especially the middle class in this country. Now you have heard what's happening in CBD.
What's happening in CBD?
The thugs.
The thugs. Yeah. They're not thugs. The biggest thug work in State House, Judiciary, and Parliament. Those thugs are stealing peanuts, 100 shillings, 200 shillings. You read here a political illiterate here the other day. That is the product of political illiteracy.
Yeah.
You need to plan for a nation. Kenya has been building a state. We have the best military. Yeah, but can we say we have the best human beings living better lives? People in Nyanza are dying of AIDS up to today. Why? They are not, women are becoming, using sex as a way of earning. You come to Nairobi, people in northern Kenya can be recruited by Al-Shabaab, and then they go fight for them. Kenya did not create a stable human being. We are not equal in the eyes of the law. We are not equal in the eyes of opportunities. We are an equal society. Why do you want me to I'm not going to allow my kids to join KDF. For what? I am not. I will train them as lawyers, journalists, so that they raise their kids. Because there is no country to fight for. The country you fight for is a country that gives equal opportunity to everybody. Look at Kisumu massacre.
Actually, I disagree with you, alas.
Yeah.
The country you fight for is the one which seems to be losing its soul, like the one you describe. We fight so that it can regain its soul and so that it can reach the potential that it clearly has. Fight for that.
I am now doing it here, but I'm not going to do it through the bullet because it's not worth it yet. You see, why do you think
it is always worth it, alas?
It is not.
It is always worth it. The reason why, if it wasn't, alas, if it wasn't worth it, you and I wouldn't be arguing. If you didn't love your country, you and I wouldn't even be arguing.
I know.
Right.
Disappointment sometimes can color our eyes and our vision. And there are very many things which are disappointing, but that is the more reason to fight.
I know. That's
That
why
is the
we
more
are.
reason to look for ways on solving this problem through educating people and getting them to understand what they need to do in their own little space to make their lives
which
better.
Which we are currently. What we're trying to say is this, and that's what we are doing with Ruto. The kind of leaders we want is the kind of a leader everybody will stop for. I saw the president walking in New York.
Yep.
Can he do the same in Nairobi? He will be lynched in the first 5 minutes.
Actually, he can.
If he does, without bodyguards.
Actually, he can.
If he does, believe you me, if he does in the streets of Nairobi today,
alas,
and I meet him myself, I will not kill him.
Okay,
but I'm going to bite him.
Okay.
Alas.
Before you
Because
say
of the
something
fascination.
treasonous.
No,
it's not treasonous.
Alas, you know,
Yeah.
the damage and the harm that we see requires serious conversation.
That's right.
One of the conversations that has been dominant when we talk of our politics is that we must choose right people. I like history because it gives you a perspective. What qualities does Jomo Kenyatta have that would have made him a president? Where had he had the wherewithal to be considered a statesman? What is it that he had done? Precisely.
He's a
He did not
plumber.
become president. He did. The nation functioned despite that gap. And the reason is because, much as we hate the colonialists, or we like to say we do, the colonialists had a system
in place
which worked. And the Kenyatta era, Africans were going into that system which worked. So there was forward movement.
Yeah.
I had to fast forward this to the new constitution. Beautiful document. Where are the structures within which it was supposed to work? The two institutions that were supposed to help build the structures and implement them were killed by parliament.
Yeah.
The CIC was given 5 years. How do you give a document of that nature 5 years to complete the implementation process? How? It can't work. So this thing was stillborn. So here we have all these wonderful ideas, but the structure within to actually implement them is constantly being frustrated by, well, parliament is the tool, but individuals who never had an interest in change to begin with.
Okay, I would like my wife
Yeah,
because I've spoken.
Yeah, actually, Byron, I wanted to ask a different question because I just want to understand now, going forward,
Yep.
what are we bound to see as far as the presence of Jubaland forces in Kenya is concerned?
Well, they at the top level, you're thinking we have to actually behave better in terms of managing the protocol, so to speak. And by that, I also mean the conflictions that need to happen, whether there are elements of spillover due to those hot pursuit claims.
Yeah.
Those need to actually be taken care of a lot more robustly. The perception gaps have got to be addressed, and when you're addressing the perception gaps, it's not just by principle that the law says this and that territorial integrity states that our lands end here and there and there. It's not a question of who is where, but mostly how then the citizenry, the perceptions and the part of the citizenry are managed so as to bring them back to that national cake, or rather to midwife the growth of the national will. The perspectives he talked about as well, again, is the backdrop of that. It's not just in the statements made, it's in the doing. And we are talking about, if you are to just take the learnings from Yoel Gantung's structural violence theory, in terms of then just looking at those societal makeups that then can bring the government to the people.
Yeah.
These frontier nations have suffered for a long time around those kind of challenges. You talk Kapedo, you talk Turkana, you talked about the schools, so the infrastructural development, so to speak, that are lacking in those kind of spaces make for weak quote unquote weak individuals that then don't stand for much. I mean, they their own mechanics and whatever you imagine. Talked about a guy with 7 wives and family, so I don't need the government. And those are people that they are all the way they look at their perceptions, and of course their outlook is predominantly on that narrative. So how then to change those narratives and to win them over, so that we don't have fightings or banditry, as it said, becoming a serious menace and a security challenge of national security proportions on some parts of the land. The other bit would be to involve the local leaders in part of being part and parcel of this, because as long as you are not in oneness, so to speak, with the people that people look up to in the lower cadres, then you'll just be talking down on them. So I'm happy that what the Interior Minister CS has been doing, the Jukwas, and that really takes him down, the ground truth. So where's the space of that ground truth? Ground truth is something that you actually get from, as he said, from the bottom end of the pyramid. And that also plays into that narrative of making people feel part and parcel of it. So there can be a sense that beyond just the multi-agency patrols, and I'm happy that is now being shored up, it's happening, we can involve the locals in terms of that, community policing infrastructure. So they feel part and parcel of it. That you said, the individuals here, this is who they are, and then this is what they look like, and this is what, in terms of the frameworks of them being here or otherwise, means to you and means to us. So that you also, remove from the equation indecisive fear, if that's the case, and or suspicion. Because in the absence of that kind of information and sharing of those kind of understandings, then it can land as being, the government, it can land, most optimistically as being the government being dismissive, and or, not being very sensitive to the plight of the citizens down there. And as I said, as a principle, sovereignty is not just a legal principle. It is a social construct as well. People must feel that they're part and parcel of the government and Project Kenya. So
right. Alas, 20 seconds.
I'll say that I was rather comfortable sharing intelligence with the OC. I don't want to mention his name in Mandera when he was there. And he used to cascade it through the other agencies that I have this information. He never used to mention the source. Kenya is capable of being a Dubai.
Okay.
Kenya is capable of being Singapore. Kenya is capable with the right mindset.
Yes.
I want to tell CT, regardless of you have CIC in the next 40 years, if the people implementing do not have integrity, if you don't have shame. I came here and I said sorry because I was late for 15 minutes. If you don't have shame as a man, you are dishonorable. Kenya is led by men and women who are dishonorable. And unless we get someone who say, no, we have to fix this country. Why do you need to pay a member of parliament 1.5 million when a Norwegian member of parliament is earning 1.15? A country that can feed its people for the next 400 years. A country that cannot feed its people for 60 years now is paying members of parliament. What do they deserve? In fact, we will have said even it should be a part-time. You go there, pass legislations, you go to a law office, you go to journalism school.
Thank you very much, Abdullahi Alas and Byron Adera. It's been a very interesting conversation, and perhaps we shall continue this conversation at a different time, and not just about Jubaland, but basically about governance in this country.